Welcome back to my channel, everyone. This week I'm sharing with you how I turned these IKEA cabinets into custom built-in storage for my office and craft space. I started with a design in SketchUp and created an extension to the IKEA units using plywood. After looking at a picture of how these shelves stood up next to each other, I decided I wanted to cut a small corner into the foot of each of these cabinets so that I could run a baseboard across all of the shelves and make it look more like a built-in cabinet. With some help from my supervisor Luna, I measured where the baseboards that were built into these shelves sat so that I could cut out just the right height with my jigsaw. I used painter's tape on both sides to help avoid splintering and just get a really smooth cut out of the corner of the shelves, and this is what it looked like when I was finished. I built the rest of the IKEA units and then got to work on covering the windows in these glass doors. Now, IKEA does sell a Brimnes unit with solid doors instead of the glass doors that I bought here. However, they've been sold out for months. I couldn't even find the color that I wanted. I originally wanted to use black cabinets for this. I ended up going with the gray cabinets with the glass doors and added a frosted paint so you won't be able to see inside. I remeasured the dimensions of these shelf units and then the distance from the shelf to the wall and got started on building the base of these cabinets. Since the doors of the IKEA units sat 2.5 inches off the ground, I used 1x3 strips and assembled them with wood glue and nails to form the base of these units. I ended up not removing the carpet under these cabinets as many would do for built-ins because I didn't want to affect the versatility of this room. Right now it functions as an office, but someday it might need to be a guest bedroom or a kid's room, and the shelves do take up a significant amount of space in the small bedroom. If we ever need to remove the cabinets, and I did tear up the carpet underneath, we'd have to replace the entire room to make it functional. For now, this is what will work best in here. The thickness on the panels of the Brimnes cabinets is about 5/8 of an inch. I had 1/2 inch and 3/4 inch plywood on hand and didn't want to purchase any more, so I used 1/2 inch for the extension cabinets. Since the IKEA cabinets have doors covering the shelves, the slight difference in thickness won't be very apparent unless you're looking inside the cabinets. I also cut down a piece of the remaining 1x3 board to use as a support across the back of the open shelf. I chose to leave the back of these cabinets open and paint the wall behind, both to cut down on wood and also so I didn't have to worry about making cuts for the electrical outlets. I put edge banding on the front side of each piece, screwed in pocket holes, and brought them upstairs to test fit before assembling them. One of the sides fit perfectly, and the other side, the support piece, was just slightly too big. So I took out those screws and then cut it down really quickly with the miter saw before putting it back in place. If you're using pocket holes to assemble this and then you have to trim off part of the end, those pocket holes won't really work anymore. They're gonna be too shallow. So what I did was use 2 screws in the opposite side of the piece. If you do this though, make sure to countersink your screws so that the side continues to sit flat against the wall. I located the studs in the wall so I could secure the bottom frame and the top of the cabinet to the wall. And don't worry about the cord you see hanging here, it's getting moved. After securing the bottom of the cabinet to the frame on each side, these extra pieces were totally stable and not moving anywhere. The length of this wall was about 110 inches, so I knew I couldn't make the countertop all in one piece from a sheet of plywood. I decided to put the seam in the middle so both of the sides would be supported equally. I measured the top of the cabinet from the wall to the middle at both the front and the back of the cabinet and cut it out of 3/4 inch plywood. I just cut the first half of this countertop and I'm dry fitting it here. I wanted to show you how perfectly does this match up. So I took the top off of this one on here, put the new top on. The new top goes all the way across. So I'm gonna be sanding this down, put some edging on it, and then paint it, and then I'm gonna have, of course, the other side to match. I also injured myself doing the stupidest things. Don't you just hate that? I was pulling one of these little evil dowels out of the thing here with the pair of pliers, and I hit my knuckle on the wall. You can work with power tools all day, every day, and not hurt yourself, but then doing the stupidest little thing, you get a cut on your finger. So dumb. So I have the second piece of the countertop set up to cut it here, and you'll notice it's not exactly parallel here because the corner where this is going is not exactly square. It's a little bit wider in the back than it is in the front. So what we're gonna do is cut it a little bit asymmetrically. It's about 1/4 inch difference. So I mark this front one here at 59 1/8, and then the back one is 59 3/8. And so this, I'm cutting it upside down, just making sure, I just made sure that this corner here is perfectly square, so it lines up with the other piece. I'm just gonna flip it over this way and lay flat to form the other piece of the countertop. Here's the second piece of the countertop. Once this is secure, this will be nice and flush. Just fill that in, sand it down, paint it, and this corner worked out pretty nicely. There is the tiniest little gap right here, but I'm not too concerned since this is, attach that there. I'm not too concerned about that tiny gap there since it's at the front. I'd rather have it at the front than the back, especially since it extends a little bit past the wall. But that's it. So now I just gotta sand it, assemble it, and paint it, and we're done. Before mounting this countertop, I sanded the entire surface down using 220 grit sandpaper and added some edge banding along the front to hide the plywood edges. I used nails to attach the countertop to each of the bottom units, then added wood filler in the seam. While that was drying, I added the shelves in the extension cabinets using pocket holes. When the wood filler was dry, I sanded the entire seam flat and prepped the cabinets for paint. Now what it looks like I'm about to do here is caulk the seams on the countertop. But if you're using this as a tutorial to build your own unit, stop right here. This isn't the way to do it. It needs to be done after you paint it, which I'll go over in more detail later on. For now, just paint the shelves. I got the paint color matched at Home Depot and used the Bare Ultra stain blocking paint and primer in a satin finish. This paint covered the surface very well after 2 coats with very few touch-ups needed. And if you're painting these shelves at the end of the day like I was, I highly recommend a glass of wine to reward yourself for a day's work well done. The next morning, I used Minwax paste finishing wax on the extension units. While that was drying, I added a baseboard along the bottom of the entire unit. This baseboard I made from another 1x3 board, sanded and painted it, and it fit perfectly underneath the cutouts I had previously made in the beginning of this video. I attached it with my nail gun and then filled in the holes. Okay, so if you've made it this far in the video, do not do what I did. What I did was I put the caulking down in this crack and then I taped the wall and painted over it. And I didn't even follow my own rules about painting with the tape. And of course, it left a big blotchy mess along most of this wall here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tape off the countertop. Eventually I'm gonna be painting the rest of this wall white. So I'm gonna paint the wall white behind it, and then we need to do the caulking over the tape and then peel the tape off so that the rest of the caulking does not get onto the countertop here. And I'm sure you can find this watching other videos on YouTube, but you know, learn from my mistakes also. This is why I'm showing you guys, so that if you are making this exact thing and this is your first countertop, like it is mine, now you know what not to do. It looks pretty much done, except for my little mistake over here. So I painted it white again, and then I'm gonna have to retape it and put the caulking back down, and then we can finish up. It probably seems like I'm being really picky because from this angle, you can't really tell that there are a bunch of little marks on it, but that bothers me. I'm being very picky about it. So we're gonna fix it. This method is used when caulking a seam where two colors meet. This will give you a very smooth line and a sharp, clean transition between the two colors. Lay some painter's tape along the countertop, not against the wall. Caulk the seam and immediately remove the tape, peeling it away from the countertop and wall at an angle. You need to remove the tape while the caulking is still wet, otherwise it will crack and peel as you pull the tape away. And a side note on caulking. If you've seen my previous shelf video, you know this is my least favorite part. It's never a requirement, but if you're willing to spend the time, it really does help create a professional, seamless look. I decided not to caulk the shelves on the extension units since the paint is dark and you won't notice the space between the wood and the wall as much as you would if it were painted white. And since the IKEA units aren't caulked either, the side units still match it. I'm so glad that I did spend the time caulking the countertop because it turned out amazing. It only took me about 10 minutes to put the tape on and put the rest of the caulking down, and it just peeled up the tape. It's still wet, but I'm so happy. This looks so much better. There's just the tiniest little bits right there that's not looking that great, and there's one more over in the other corner, but the rest of this all looks so smooth. I'm so happy I redid this because it looks awesome. Just that tiny little thing. Once it dries, I'll just go in with a little bit of paint and cover that up. That's looking good. So happy. Time to decorate it. So now I just have to decide what I want to do with the wall behind these cabinets. If you have any suggestions for me, drop it in the comments below. I'd love to hear it. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.